All right, everyone, we're going to get started. I'm going to be your moderator. I think you know me by now. If you don't, come say hi. We have a great panel today about use of LED volume as well as green screen technology. We got a celebrity, and can my panelists make it to the stage? All right, guys. First up, Patterson, President and CEO, Trilith Studios. Welcome. John Brenkus, CEO of Brinks TV. Erick Geisler, my baby daddy / CTO and Global Objects. Wolfie was our DP on the project. And we've got Dave Hoffman, Blackmagic Design. Welcome, gentlemen. It's me and the boys.
Check.
All right.
Checking 1, 2, 3.
Check.
Okay, guys. All right, so let's talk about the GOAT code. John, I'm going to start with you. Tell me about the GOAT code.
The GOAT code, long-awaited return of the GOAT code. So what it is I'm best known as the guy that hosted and created a show that was called ESPN Sport Science. Erick, Geisler, and I, way back in last century, created the assets and created the creative formula for sports science. Ran 1,800 episodes on ESPN. It was awesome. That ended in 2018.
Multiple Emmys.
We won 6 Emmys, whatever. The Erick is amazing. So the comeback of sports science was we had to outdo ourselves 10x. So we formed a new company that's called Brinks TV, BRINX.TV. Our partners are Trilith Ventures, Patterson, President and CEO of Trilith Studios. And our first project is called the GOAT Code, where we are cracking the code on the greatest of all time. Our first installment is with the Pro Football Hall of Fame Media Village. This weekend on induction weekend, we're debuting it. Actually, what we're playing here is the first time anybody's seeing it semi-publicly. And it's being launched in Champ Bailey is the first segment. We've already shot 15 segments. And we've shot down at the virtual studio that's at Trilith. And we also have a virtual studio that's at Brinks TV HQ. So it's an exciting project.
Yeah, let's roll that back.
So we have a clip.
Play the clip?
Yeah, we have a clip to play. So this is the Champ Bailey segment. Here we go.
You grew up with 2 brothers.
Right.
How big of a role did it play having brothers in your house to really forging the athlete you are?
It was everything because my older brother I played with in high school. And as soon as he left, here comes my younger brother pushing me. And they were both great athletes. He's kind of set the tone as the older brother. Then my younger brother, Boss, came right behind. He's pushing me. He's my size, just as fast, can jump just as far and as high as I can. So it was one of those things. We competed within each other, but we always pushed each other to be as great as we could be. That was an interesting dynamic for me because I got to play with both of them in college at different times. And that's rare for a kid to say.
Champ's family genetics and family competition helped shape the prototypical defensive back. Optimal height and weight, elite speed, and lateral quickness. His times at the NFL Combine in both the 40 and the 5.10.5 shuttle remain among the fastest of all time. In terms of straight line speed, we've measured his top gear at 21.9 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, in 2022, that would have been the 3rd fastest speed in the league. And it's actually faster than a road runner. Bailey's otherworldly physical gifts translated immediately to the NFL. In 1999, he started all 16 games of his rookie season and became the youngest player in NFL history to make 3 interceptions in a game. And his reputation as a shutdown corner only grew. In 2006, the ball was only thrown to his receiver 35 times. And of those passes, he picked off 10. To put that ridiculous pickoff rate in perspective, consider this. In 2021, All-Pro and Pro Bowler Jalen Ramsey was targeted 98 times, and he only had 4 interceptions.
There you go.
Thank you for that. Well, great shots of the volume there, and that's what I want to talk to you. So, Frank, you partner with Lux. I got the tour of Trilith. I got to meet your mom.
Okay, yeah. My mom also lives in the town, so that, yeah.
And let's talk about the town. So, if you haven't been to Trilith, it's in the middle of Atlanta. It's amazing studios, and I'm going to let Frank.
We originally started out as Pinewood Atlanta Studios, and that was just a chance for us to get into the feature business with the great reputation that Pinewood has and the resources, the expertise. But we really wanted to be a 3-pillar business, not simply in facilities. We also wanted to make investments into technology and into content. And so that 3-pillar play, thus the name Trilith, was not the direction that Pinewood wanted to go, so somebody had to buy somebody out. And as you might imagine, we emerged, rebranded, and began making investments in technology and content. The virtual stage, I have a bit of a technology background myself, has been involved in virtual production for years. Really wanted this to be a really easy to use tool. And those of you involved in virtual production know that nothing about it is easy to use. But we wanted to have a full-time team on the lot with a solution that was easy for people to plug into, as open source as possible, as friendly to our filmmakers as possible, and given the investment you make in these kinds of resources, for example, our stage is about a $32 million investment, if the model is built to pay it off, you know, if I let my CFO build the model, I can only support the Marvel movies that we support. By the way, we have 32 stages, we're about 1,000 acres. I just found out from an engineer that we're the largest studio campus in North America. That was not the plan, but it includes a town, 235-acre town, and about 5,000 doors, you know, multifamily homes, single-family homes, and it's just this village. My career started here in Burbank, and it reminds me of what Burbank must have been a long time ago.
I mean, you know, I've shot pretty much all around the world, and I have to say, hands down, it is the most pristine, nicest stages I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, thank you. And the idea here was, let's support. Our vision is to be this place, not a studio, but to be this place that has every resource that great storytellers need to do anything they can imagine. So it's a big idea. But when we say great storytellers, I don't just mean Joe and Anthony Russo. They're great storytellers, and we've been really enjoy working with them. I also mean John Brenkus. I also mean independent filmmakers. And so how do you make these kinds of resources available to these kinds of budgets? Because I will tell you, as much as I love John, he didn't have the budget that Joe and Anthony have, right? And so how do you make this big of volume, 90 feet deep, 80 feet wide, 30 feet tall, all the functionality that we have, and it's wonderful. How do we make it available for this kind of budget? And so the strategy was not to build it based on my CFO's model, but to build it on the larger ROI, the return on impact that we have if we have this kind of tool on a longer timeline in a stable environment where it's easy to plug into. And easy to plug into is the key, meaning if you're renting it for 4 weeks before you're ever shooting an image, that's a lot of money that you're spending that you're not actually ending up with frames. And so in John's case, the idea was, let's make sure that when he shows up, our teams have interacted well enough and effectively enough that he's shooting frames the day he shows up. And that required us to make investments and to change processes in the virtual stage that just didn't exist.
I'd love to poll the audience. How many of you have actually shot on a volume wall? Okay, great. And how many of you want to do it? Well, there's plenty of stages for you to rent. He's got one of them. But moving on to the technology, Erick, did you want to go into how you planned the show with John and the team? And
Sure. I mean, it was really simple. We had a very limited amount of time to get access to this incredible Rolls Royce of a stage, and so really the trick for us is you're also scheduling world-class athletes from around the world. So you kind of have to build the perfect storm and just batten down the hatches and hope nothing goes wrong. And that's exactly what we did. We created an environment that was going to play on the wall that would also play on the studio at Brinks TV green screen stage, which is a very small, a much smaller space to work in. So we had to design a system with both. Wolfie was our DP, so Wolfie and I basically had to come up with an idea of, okay, we have to design lighting and environments that are going to work not just in this incredible giant, LED stage, but also within a green screen stage, and that's exactly what we did. So we created a level in Unreal Engine. We tested it, online with the technicians from Trilith. We got it all working there, and then we partnered up with the tracking company at stYpe, and we put their system into John's studio. So we have some slides to show on that in a little bit. We'll get there in a second, but. Wolfie, do you want to talk a little bit about design?
Eric, I just want to add one thing that you're saying, because this is so critical. How do you make these kinds of technologies affordable to everyone, right? And system integration was key to this.
Correct.
From the beginning, saying, look, our hero shots, these great athletes are going to show up, and they need to feel the love of being in an incredible place and feel like this is something big. John makes everything big, but the walking on that stage was an impact for them.
Massive.
But so how you get the hero shots, how do you make certain you get the feel and the scope that you want of the show, but make it affordable? It was the integration of these systems that you did so well that made it these seamless cuts. You wouldn't believe how seamless it was, because I was worried about that. But that makes it then affordable and easy to use.
And it's, when you're dealing with literally the greatest athletes of all time, their schedules are tight. Trilith is located 20 minutes from the Atlanta airport, and that's like virtually trillion time of the day, rush hour included. You land, you get in your vehicle, you're at the Trilith stage. Now what? The LED wall is up, the set is up, Wolfie's lit it, the camera's rolling, John Brenkus is on stage, we need to shoot, rolls in, we shoot what we need, they get back in their car, 20 minutes later, they're out. To be able to do that consistently is just mind-blowing without the technology that we used, where we didn't have to do it over and over and over. We could get it all in one shot. And to be able to do that, to Frank's point, on a budget that's for lack of a better description, indie budget, we're making things that look incredibly epic using the greatest tools on the planet, featuring the greatest athletes of all time in a snap. It's just jaw-dropping that we all collectively were able to make it happen.
We had over 6 athletes in one day that we were able to put through the volume. It was a really packed day. But let's talk about the lighting, Wolfie. Let's talk about how did a lot of producers, directors, et cetera, want to learn how to light a volume. What was your approach?
I think the GOAT code is a fantastic test case for how do you optimize using LED walls but keep the cost down. And I describe it as the Tiffany box approach, right? You can buy a reasonably priced ring, but you put it in a Tiffany box, and the beautiful box puts all the shine on the gift. So we shoot 20% of it at Trilith at the biggest volume with the techno crane. We get the people there, stack them in, do intros and outros, knock it out, big sweeps, right? Then later on, the sports heroes come by one over to Brenkus TV, and then they're in a more comfortable, relaxed state, and then we put them on a small green screen, and we have a small jib that emulates it, and then I've carefully recreated the large-scale lighting setup to have the same ratios on a small-scale setup. And now one of the things you get a lot when you're shooting green screen and then tying it into an LED wall is you lose your environmental lighting cues on the green screen. At Trilith, I have 1,000,000 watts of light. It browns out Atlanta when we turn on that beautiful LED wall. I love that thing so much, right? So, and the Lux guys drive that thing like a stolen Ferrari, right? And you got all the environmental cues. When the things pop up behind them and on their face, you see the gold and the purple, and you see all that, right? So when we go to Brenkus TV, I got to mimic light from KinoFlow. And it's an LED panel that functions like a light, has really good CRI for skin tones. So I put one little chunk of LED panel up on the ceiling behind them and one in front of them. And then that is programmed into the Unreal Engine. So we bring up the Unreal Engine, we bring up the comp, you see the green screen, the lighting looks right, and then because we're running the Unreal comp, we're playing the Unreal scene on those two little lights that are out of frame. But they shine all the same gold and they shine all the purple, and so you feel like you're in the same lighting space. So we leveraged a really aggressive new technology in lighting. You know, and there's other lights that are coming out are gonna do the same thing. It's just super important to light the green screen right. And then we're on an independent budget, and we have all the time in the world to work with them at the studio to get all the takes we want. And that's an easy time because they own the studio, right? And then you just stack them up and do 20% at Trilith.
And we made a lovely call to Dave. And I said, Dave.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Dave.
the camera chain in a second, which is why David is so really important to this. To make a show like this, you have to shoot a multi-camera experience, right? Levels are cinematic. So typically speaking, you're shooting one, maybe two cameras. So one of the challenges technically that we had to work out with the team at Prisms was to figure out how do we effectively shoot a multi-camera show inside of a volume. And they brilliantly figured out a system for us. They worked out how we could have first and priority, so when what cameras are the most important so that those take priority. If you're crossing two cameras or seeing the same thing, that was really important. But also the workflow that we worked out with Dave and Blackmagic was really, really important. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so we got the call from Erick and described kind of what this was going to look like, and yeah, we want to do more than almost 24 shows, right? You were going to shoot them all in a short period of time, and then you were going to transition between LED volumes and green screen, which is very challenging, as Wolfie was just saying, right? You have very different environments that you're dealing with, and there's certainly some best practices that are evolving. One of the things at Blackmagic that we kind of saw evolving over the last 5 or 6 years is that we're looking at multicam shooting in a cinematic environment, and we're seeing a convergence of broadcast workflows and cinema workflows. And I remember sitting in a meeting discussing a pretty high-level movie, and the director's tech team was there, and they said, "Hey, we want to have a switcher," and I'm like, "A switcher? Like, I've never understood. Why would you want a switcher on a cinema shoot?" "Well, we're going to be shooting 6 cameras simultaneously, all in camera visual effects." I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I like that concept, right? I've been doing a lot of my work in real-time work and green screen work and broadcast and virtual sets. So this is kind of bringing that there. So when Erick came and started saying, hey, here's what we want to do. It's going to be fast and furious. We're going to be able to get this project done in a short period of time. We're dealing with high-level talent. And we're going to be shooting at this, this multiple locations down around Trilith. And I said, well, you've got a top-notch facility down there with a great team, and certainly Erick's experience and the team that he's brought together, we're able to do this. So we looked at that workflow. As you've heard several times, cost containment, it becomes an issue when you talk about multiple camera chains. Now you're not dealing with just basically from one camera all the way back to the recorder. You're dealing with 6 or more sometimes. In that case, you got to multiply that, because each one of them has to have all of their own signal management, and all of them have to be synchronized. And of course, this isn't such a big deal when you start thinking about live sports production and things like that, because we've done that for quite some time. But you've got to get that cinematic look. And you're dealing with real-time visual effects, and now these volumes and things like that, the talent comes in and they see themselves in that environment, and it totally generates a new feeling. So we have all the gear that goes along with that, and walking it through with Erick and the team, we found, hey, we've got a couple new things that came out in the market here. We'll put them in place. They were able to integrate this very rapidly, and I know we were checking up on each other over the weekend. You were laying it all down, and I'm like, everything show up on time? Yeah, plugged it in 20 minutes ago, and it's working. And I'm like, good, that's great. I'm glad. That's the kind of confidence you want to have, and that builds confidence in shooting these kind of ways. So we were really happy to be a part of it, and thank you for giving us the call and giving us the chance to put the technology into play and prove that these kind of workflows are manageable cost-wise and technologically.
And they hold the look. You look at the thing, it's like, it doesn't, what was that shot on? It's just great looking footage, right? So it's like, yeah.
One of the challenges that Wolfie and I were trying to ride the line was how are we going to lens this, right? Because so lensing's really important. It's a sports show, but we wanted it to feel really cinematic. So, and we also were on a budget. So all of those things don't really go hand in hand. So we wanted a cinematic approach. We ended up using cinema zoom lenses. So we went out and we found some lower cost cinema zoom lenses from Dizio. And they were fantastic. Punched well above their pay grade for what they were. We initially went to the camera house and were very surprised at what we were seeing. And then when we got them to set and calibrated and working on the volume, I mean, I was shocked at how good it looked.
Totally shocked. The other thing is we were dealing with a purchase situation, not a rent. Because, Brenkus TV is going to be doing this show like they did their last show. This is going to run.
Brenkus TV.
Brenkus TV, sorry. We had to buy. So, lenses get very expensive very quickly, So it's like, how do you find that? And the modern glass cutting really makes a big difference. We put them up against $20,000 lenses that were pretty good, but was like, these look almost better, paired with the Blackmagics. They paired perfectly.
Perfectly. In the day, because I remember we couldn't actually get the lenses, so we had to rent some lenses for one of our first shoots, and we rented some Ingenues. And beautiful lenses, but when we got these in, we were like, what? Like, it really was.
The hair sharper looked better on the wall, and they were smaller form factors, so then we weren't overweighting the crane, and it was like, wow, these things are amazing.
So,
Wolfie had a special filter.
So John, it sounds like you brought in the right team.
We brought in a great team. I mean, Erick and I go way, way back. Very blessed to have, really deep relationships. But the most important relationship in the chain is the relationship with Trilith. Frank, Frank's vision of being able to build a place that gives creatives every tool they need to tell a story is just mind-blowing. Brenkus TV and the GOAT Code as the first property that we're all making together is the beneficiary of a lot of work, a lot of experience, really led by Frank. We're ridiculously honored to have Trilith as a partner, and Frank as a visionary, and Frank is somebody who laid the groundwork so that somebody like myself could walk in and say, hey, I want to do this. And he can say, I already have all those tools you need. You just didn't know it. So it's pretty amazing. What I want Frank to share with the group is that Frank's expertise in being on the cutting edge of technology just it trumps almost anybody in the universe. And now there's a place where that technology is now affordable, accessible, and able to be implemented into any story of any kind, because the GOAT Code is very different than a Marvel movie.
So for other producers in the room, Frank, how do they approach you with a project, or what's the process of working with Trilith?
We're really difficult to work with or find. No, we're open to. I spent a lot of time trying to change the perception that we are partners with, and by the way, I love working with the Marvel team and the Warner team, and these are great projects, and these are great filmmakers, and we learn a lot, and that's great. But if we really are going to succeed at building a place where great storytellers can do anything they can imagine, this has to be a big tent. And it has been a challenge, I will tell you, to change the culture at our studio with all of our team and all of our partner vendors to say that, that the John Brenkuses of the world, and we've got a lot of independent filmmakers, need to feel right at home here. And we have to be open to new processes, because I'll tell you, producers that are doing, for example, these big superhero movies, the work processes, the workflows, the technologies, the partnerships that they have are critical to their success. When you're spending $3 million a day doing something, you're relying on teams and people that you've been working with for a long time, and no one wants to change anything. And as a result, and by the way, I don't blame them, right? Let's not try to invent something while we're making a $300 million movie. So, but for our goals, that can be a challenge because our culture sets and says, this is the way we do things. No, it's not. We have to constantly invent new ways to do things. One of the reasons we made an investment in Brinks TV is because John was, thinking completely out of the box in terms of technology, in terms of how to make content, and more importantly, how the consumer was going to consume that content. So for those of you, take a minute. You don't have to do it right now, but do it as soon as you get out of here. Go to Brinks, BRINX.TV, sign up. It's the only platform that you'll ever, how many platforms do you all subscribe to? Because I think I subscribe to 14. I don't know.
I think about 18 myself.
Yeah, so
personally.
subscribe to this one. This will be the only one that pays you to watch. So that's unique. Secondly, it's a platform that allows you to multi-screen consume the content, which if you're a sports fan, it's the top content, while simultaneously engaging in buying related consumer products. So it's content that meets commerce in a very entertaining platform that pays you to watch. So like, okay, this all sounds insane. I don't know this guy. I remember when he was at ESPN, he is crazy. So I figure we should look at it. Well, in order to make that business model work, he's approaching production in a different way. And for me, it was about getting my team at the studio that's used to working and supporting these very big projects to recognize this guy's going to invent stuff. This team right here invented stuff. And we were just there to support, right? And genuinely, that's how we look at it. We have a value of second mile service. We're looking to make certain we go the second mile for everyone that walks on our lot. And we're just trying to figure out how to support these folks who are doing something different. And that culture clash can be tough.
I think it's a really interesting segue to talk about where do virtual stages go for our next generation, right? I'm used to growing up on sets in LA. We would rent a translite. We look through a booklet. It's like G13, New York skyline with this, right? And then you have the grip, set it up, and then you set your sets up and you shoot it, right? So now we've got the best translite technology on the planet in virtual production, right? But we don't have stages yet where a company has created virtual translites where they're integrated with that stage, and instead of me going in for $100,000 at Trilith for 12 hours, right, we did bumpers with John in 45 minutes. We could have shot a Tiffany box version of this show if we could book out 1 hour or 2 hours for 20 grand. Right? And then we walk in, pull up G13, boom, or we've got our custom thing that we tweaked off-site, plug it into the USB, and boom, away we go. And I see that is the people that figure out how to do virtual backdrops that are integrated into a wall and start renting out hourly instead of daily. That's when your independent film is going to come in, spend their 20 grand on that, and then $1 million on the rest of the thing, and that 20 minutes is the sizzle that sells the steak.
Kim, can you pull up the photos? We want to show you guys some of what we're talking about here. So that's the volume you're looking at. Wolfie, do you want to talk through the lighting?
Yeah, so one of the things with coming up through the ranks, I did a lot of green screen lighting back in the 90s. Used to have to use a lavender to get the stop perfectly so it would key out, right? The same technology applies to LED walls. Any light that you introduce to an LED screen, you need to control the light spill. If any light gets on the wall, it blows the black balances, right? So lighting an LED wall isn't important. Gripping an LED wall is important. So you notice I've got a big soft source far away. You use big lights far away because it creates a bigger area where they can move around and have the same stop. If you use a light up close, they blossom really bright and then they fall off really quickly. So I used a huge M40. I put it through a 12 by 12 bleach muslin, and I turned the color down a little warmer so the skin tones looked beautiful. It's a sports show, and for me, sports shows instantly mean a nice whitish backlight because it gives you that stadium light nod, right? So you feel like the sports heroes are in their heroic lighting, right? So I used an LCD, which is an egg crate, and as you see, as you angle it, you can't see the light off angle, but then it creates a nice narrow column, and I lifted it up nice and high and pointed it downwards. So all of my light just hit the floor instead of the back wall. Right? So those are some of the techniques we use for creating a zone.
I just want to say some of these slides that you're seeing are shot in a tiny green screen room, and some are on the LED volume. Can any of you tell which is which?
There's our green screen room, right? There was that shot that had the green screen. So I was using, purchased lights, and, with the purchased lights in a smaller room, they have a smaller area to walk around. But what's important is the felt ratio, the relationship and the color quality, right? So I had an orangish hued key light. I had a daylight strong kicking backlight, and then I had the ambient colors coming in from the wall, right? So in that little green screen room, then we used, the same kind of thing, a parabolic reflector with an LCD. Again, I'm still trying to control the light in the green screen room because I don't want the green screen to key out badly. So yeah, you invent a lighting setup, and I see a lot of people, a lot of the gaffers these days roll around looking at monitors, and they're like, that monitor looks good. And it's like, kid, Google a meter, because you should have one, and it's a pro tool, and stop being lazy. Stop using the monitor.
5600K.
6500K, I got it on the wall. I got like meter readings. It's 5.6 on the face. It's a 5, this on the backlight. Like, take notes.
Wolfie's not very passionate about any of this.
Don't
Wolfie
be
also
lazy.
listen, I don't know if y'all could follow what Wolfie was saying. It's just, what's amazing about it is, so Erick and I and Murray Oden's in the room and Taryn Hoagland's in the room, and who are all part of the original sports science team, and we just shattered like what people thought was possible with that. Yeah. And when it was time to like, all right, we're gonna bring that kind of idea back, do it 10x. It's the same people that were like, all right, we did it before because we know how we did it before. How do you 10x it? And I'm a very I'm a very spiritual person. When I tell you, I didn't know about Trilith. I didn't know what Trilith had to offer. And Trilith's entry into the equation, and specifically Frank Patterson's entry into the equation, was what allowed us to go, wow, we can 10x this, and it wouldn't have been possible. And that, Frank and I have now become very good friends, and his dream of giving everybody all of those tools, let somebody who's a genius like Wolfie, who knows everything there is to know about how to make an image look great for Marvel or for the GOAT code, and the creative teams that come together can. I think that being able to even articulate that phrase, the creative teams that can make something happen at Trilith, it just simply wasn't possible before this moment in time.
It's funny because it was almost like John has this really interesting, I don't know, you may understand this about him just by seeing him in person. He has this way of convincing you to do impossible stuff all the time.
Bending the universe.
Bending the universe. And
Dude, Braveheart would follow him.
They would. Seriously. He comes in, he's like, we've got this impossible thing to do, and we all look at each other, and we're like, oh, this again. Here we go. And the next thing we know, we're on the Starship flying Mach 12 with our face being plastered against the wall. And we just, we have to, he convinces us to try it. He goes, we're going here. And then he convinces us to give it a try, and because we try, sometimes we fail, oftentimes we don't. I'll say that.
Let's get the level loaded.
Sure. So I'm going to walk you through just the technical chain. So this right here is a system that's being tracked live. If you could bring it, here we go. Could you bring the crane closer? There we go. So this is
we're on the GOAT code stage.
You're on the GOAT code set. So our camera chain is Blackmagic G2 cameras. On the top of that camera, you will see another camera that's looking at this star constellation up here. This is a stYpe tracking system. So it's looking at these dots, focusing it knows where the dots are, and therefore it knows where the camera is. And so this is how we were setting up tracking it both inside of Trilith on their stage and also on his stage.
You have a virtual camera in Unreal Engine, and you have a physical camera. And the tracking knows what the physical camera is doing, and it marries it to the virtual. So just like your kid's first-person shooter game, as the camera moves, as the virtual camera moves, you see parallax. You see out the window, you see the stage transform.
So if you actually look at what's happening through the eyes of the camera, you don't see all this stuff moving. It just looks like the set is really realistically in perspective the way that it would be from the vantage point of the camera.
And because we're the production summit, I want to make this more interactive. So if you have a question, raise your hand now. We'd love, you've got the experts up here on the stage. We're happy to answer them for you.
And I would
So-
just say,
A lot of
Eric,
the-
and you could probably comment more
Sure.
on this, but for us, there's been a real demand for education. And we realize this, and the Lux team, by the way, is great at this and has put together a lot of great education material. I have some of my most seasoned friends that are producers, visual effects supervisors, Academy Award-winning visual effects supervisors, who really don't understand most of this.
Right.
And an LED wall is an LED wall. Well, that's not true.
Correct.
And the kind of, we realized early on that we've got to, and that's why one of the main reasons we brought on a full-time team, so that filmmakers, teams, could start interacting with our team early on and enjoy the benefit of education and get a comfort level for application. Because, by the way, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we have a 2-time Academy Award-winning visual effects supervisor, and he rightfully believes he's seen it all, knows it all, and he gets it. Well, then when you start using it, and you realize, oh wow, there's some stuff here that could really help us that I hadn't planned on. It's just being able to be with the team, use it, try and fail quickly. That is the big education tool that I think is going to be necessary for us to adopt this at a scale that's really going to benefit the
It's
industry at
a
large.
technology that demands collaboration, and it demands the Buddhist approach of beginner mindset. Like, I've been doing this since '95, and I give answers to virtual production like, the way you do it is this, this, and this, as of the last 6 months, unless you've heard something different.
Yeah, and you always checks and balances. What's funny is, and I said this in another talk, you're combining two disciplines that don't go well together. Production is fast and furious, and visual effects is slow and tedious. Those two worlds are by design supposed to be different, because your visual effects crew is supposed to be handling these like tremendous problems. It's 20 people who stay up all night drinking Red Bull and eating Hot Pockets.
Fix it in post,
Right.
Eric. Fix it in post.
Fix it in post is turning into fix it in prep, and one of our friends here, David, has a badge on his thing that says fix it in prep, and that is where things are going, because now you have to marry these two worlds together to get final pixels out of your camera at the end of the day. And just the staff at Trilith were so generous with their time and their ability to make things work for us. We really worked out a really fantastic workflow, because you're dealing with so many complicated things in this chain of events that go on, that any one of those things, if they fail, is catastrophic. So you have to treat this like you're launching something to the moon. You really do. You have to have double cables to your systems, extra camera bodies, extra everything, because oftentimes when you're sitting there, especially at the scope and scale of this volume, if anything goes down, it's mission critical.
It's a chain. We have 80 single point failure things on a set, which is terrifying as a cinematographer. That's one of the things I like about the Lux team. It's like, can you run Unreal Engine really well? Great. Can you run Unreal Engine really well when the camera cable's down and I have my hands crossed like this and I'm looking over your shoulder? And that's Lux.
Well, and I will say, one of the big challenges before we even got into this, we had producers who've been down this road, producers of content who say, I'm never doing this again, right? A lot of people have gotten burned. Part of the problem is this clash of culture that you're talking about. I was sharing with Wolfie just before we started. I produced a show about 8 or 9 years ago at the Billboard Music Awards. I don't know if you remember when Michael Jackson came back and appeared at the Billboard Music Awards. It was a show I produced, and it was a convergence of all these technologies, right? So I had a visual effects supervisor, I had ABC television engineer with 30. Our pre-production team was, our meetings were 30 people just sitting around the table who really don't like to work with each other. So, for example, the ABC engineer came to me and said, by the way, I want you to come look at this waveform monitor, because your 12K image that the world is about to see live with 10,000 people at the MGM Grand Theater is not going to play on our 720p broadcast from ABC. Here's the hots, here's the lows, there's nothing in the middle. So you need to tell your visual effects supervisor to re-render that shot so that it plays on 720p. You might imagine how that discussion went. So I had to break up a fist fight. It's like, don't tell him that's what we're going to do. Because then, so he says, okay, I'll make it flat. The people in MGM will hate it. It'll give away, it won't look real. It'll be a disaster, and you'll be in the trades tomorrow as a failure. Okay, great, you guys. You can either fight it out right now. By the way, this is 2 days before the show. We're at prep. And what I realized was, to your point, these are people that don't often work together, and this kind of production is causing us to have to work together well. And that's really why we took the approach that we took to building the team that was full-time. Said, look, filmmakers are weird people. Visual effects people are weirder people. And yes, and by the way, everyone believes, and I just get used to this, everyone secretly believes they're the smartest person in the room. And so we just have to now figure out how we're going to take a collaborative spirit and really solve problems with this solution that have never been solved before. And it's working. And now I have producers saying, wow, that was an easy in and out. And they start planning other shows because they've had an easy experience. And most folks do not associate easy experience with virtual production.
Correct. Correct.
Well, I think the collaborative spirit is definitely in tune for the GOAT code. Working with Blackmagic, we also have been working with Evercast, so we're going to have a jump-on cameo from JP. We've been working with them to do a live solution. He was saying, Jess, it may work, it may not work. JP, want to jump on and show us what you got?
Wow, all right.
So this is live technology. I'm going to give you my...
Do we have another mic for JP?
Just take mine. Here.
Well, while they're getting set, I just want to point something out to everybody. I know a lot of you assume we've been setting this up for a week. 36 hours ago, this room was empty, right? So in most of the gear that you see set up here and how we put everything together was similar to what was done for the GOAT code itself. That was able to be set up here over the last essentially 24 hours. And so where we end up in production MacGyvering things quite a bit and hoping for the best, we move around problems pretty fluidly. Even this morning as we were setting up, we not only here, but there's another studio in case you didn't know that got set up. So it can be done, and talking to Frank's point, it can be done, and it isn't one of these things that's going to leave you with post-traumatic stress after doing these kind of productions, where I know in the past it has. So this is possible. It's a living example of it right here, and what they're able to have accomplished.
Post-traumatic volume syndrome is what we call it.
All right, JP.
All right, cool. Hi, I'm JP. Wow, that's weird. CSO for Evercast strategy side. So I think one of the things you guys are talking about that's really interesting is collaboration. And so Evercast is a platform that you can video collaborate with a lot of different people from around the world. And you can bring all sorts of different inputs, whether it's editorial or the game engine and things like that. And one of the things that we've been working with Global Logic on is the ask of how do you get talent to these stages, right? So you've got an incredible team here on set, but we're all busy people, and how do we actually engage with this and also bring people that might not be readily available to set? So we're gonna try our world first here, and hopefully it works, but I guess we're ready. We're gonna pull up an image that's actually coming into Engine, and one of the guys in the back, there we go. Oh no, okay, it's getting there, okay. So what you're looking at here is actually a live stream from our booth in the other room. And this could be a booth that could be anywhere. And we're actually streaming, and we're gonna go a couple dreams deep, but that's us running Unreal Engine. And in the background, there's the camera that is actually our live camera showcasing. So it's a little bit, couple worlds in between. But what we can use this and leverage this technology for is actually bringing in a video participant and streaming it live in Engine, which is really cool. We're doing it twice as an example.
In the engine.
Yeah. So, and this isn't just, this could be one of the participants, one of the sports people you're interviewing, or it could be you yourself needing to watch this and experience this and communicate with it and collaborate with it, if it makes sense. So, pretty cool stuff. So.
And some of the other things that we've been working on is, trying to figure out how, because we've got a lot of sports figures coming in from around the world, how we can collaborate with them both in Los Angeles, in Atlanta, in New York, wherever they're going to be, and actually be in the engine with John simultaneously. So that's something that we've been collaborating with Evercast on.
So funny story. Eric's directing GOAT Code, and I said, there's a specific day, we are going to Disneyland, we're taking the kids, you are not working. Turns out, John calls Eric and says, I got this player, He's coming in this day, and we're shooting. We're in the car on the highway shooting the Goat Code with Erick directing in the passenger seat. We get to the Disneyland parking lot, and he's still directing.
On cellular.
And he's still directing.
But it worked. Like so here's what I was, and actually she has a picture on her phone that she may show somebody. I'm sitting down on Disneyland Main Street where I could get a Wi-Fi signal. John is with the talent on the green screen set at Brinks TV, and I am controlling Unreal Engine from the ground at Main Street Disneyland with my laptop. It was mind blowing.
And it was only Jerome Bettis and Mike Singletary.
Right.
On, and we're shooting, and I have Erick in my ear on my AirPod, and he's talking to me. He's like, my kids have to go to the bathroom. Can we hold for a second? And I'm like, no. He's like, all right. Mike Singletary's standing there. Jerome Bettis is standing there. We're shooting in this, and it worked.
And I was calling Taryn, our line producer. I'm like, we are not working today. We are not.
And it worked.
And I'm like, 5 more minutes. I'm like, why don't you take them on Small World? I'll meet you over there. It's going to be okay. They left. I was like, okay, let's get this shot.
What's hilarious to me is before this out here, somebody commented to me like, Erick and Jess, man, how do they do it? They get their parents and they go to Disneyland and they're doing these shows. I literally had somebody ask that. Like, how do they do it all?
We're working
it's like they do
inside
it all
the
at the
car.
same time.
So what? To JP's credit, what we've been working on is the ability to collaborate not only inside of Unreal Engine, but the ability to control external objects that are on a set through an API. We're working on technology that allows us to work really remotely, like sitting on the floor at Disneyland.
And one thing that I do, and I'm not just saying this because it's our platform, but dude, just trust me. Go to Brinks, BRINX.TV.
I think I have a QR code coming up.
If you have a QR code, come on. And the reason being, everything that you are watching on Brinks TV, we are producing from around the world. From the main street of Disneyland with Mike Singletary on a green screen set
in
Atlanta. Then you're turning around saying, now we're on the largest volume at Trilith, and we've got Marcellus Wiley exclusively on Brinks TV in the setup that we built in his house that's coming through the network, that's incorporating all of this technology. And when you look at Brinks TV and then you say, and I'm watching TV, it's sponsored, it's paid for by sponsors, and you're able to buy products associated without ever leaving the screen, and I'm getting paid because I get a discount if I consume the content that they've produced for me. It's a platform that is really the culmination of everybody's creative work on stage, and also just a vision that I think is way past due that we fortunately, along with Trilith, are ahead of the curve on. And just check it out. And when you watch it, realize Erick is helping to direct it from the main street of Disneyland.
One of the things I love about Brinks TV is the intimacy, because you have a familiarity with the players and you've created this environment where they come in, they're just so relaxed, and then you feel like you're sitting on the couch with your sports heroes having conversations. You know, there's so like I think that's the thing that's so priceless about what you contribute. You know, like
John,
it's so fun.
John really is. He is the whisperer for all these people. They love him so much. They come in. We get. He convinces people to just come in on a whim, and they will. They'll all show up and line up because he's very good at what he does. He's very good at convincing these people that this is going to be good for them, right? And pays them zero.
Listen, positive energy begets positive energy, and the reason why everyone's on the stage is because the universe conspires for us to succeed. And I feel I am blessed to be in the company of people who are far smarter than I am, and I'm blessed that God allows me to envision something that's never been created before. I know I could never do it alone. It takes people and technology and thinking outside of, anything anybody has ever thought of before. And I like to think outside of the box that doesn't exist. It's just there is no box. It's like, I want to go there. Somebody like Erick and Frank and Jess and Wolfie will take us there. And it's really because positive energy begets positive energy.
It's funny, when they came to me with the idea, I know like 9 out of 10 directors of photography would be like, oh, those limitations suck. And I'm like the chef on the cooking show where it's like, okay, you get an M&M and a pound of butter and 3 pieces of chocolate, make a dessert. And I'm like, to me, limitations are extremely exciting because it funnels it and you're like, I can make something great, and this I'm gonna feel really proud about being as lean as you possibly can be, you know?
So to give everybody an idea of Wolfie's character and personality, when I called him for the job, he's like, I'm in Kathmandu, coming down from Everest. He's an adventurer.
Were you really?
He
He
was.
really was.
I
in
really was.
Kathmandu.
I'm like, I've taken 2 calls in this country, and you're one of them. It sounds good. What do you
He's
got?
like, I have elevation sickness.
But I want to say, why Eric and I created Production Summit is making these connections with the tech companies. We met Evercast, Damien and JP at another event, and now we can call their cell phones and say, hey, we've got this problem we want to figure out. And they're like, give us a week, and you just saw it live on stage, right? So we are able to effectively do things very quickly for events like this. To Frank's point, education, meeting people, networking. We can call Dave over at Blackmagic, say, hey, we've got this problem, let's figure it out. So I really encourage everyone to stay for the networking portion of what we're building here with Production Summit and the community and technology and everything that comes together at these events. But we have about 10 minutes left. We wanted to ask some questions. If it's
We can
LED.
switch back to the other.
I was just going to add one thing. If you were sitting in Disneyland on Main Street, right? And how spotty that coverage must have been. Nothing against Disneyland, right?
It's Disneyland, right?
Yeah,
With a
right.
lot of people.
Yeah. It's interesting the way that Brinks TV and all the work. One of the reasons, by the way, Trilith made this investment is John, is because John made this investment in himself. I mean, he put a lot of personal capital into building the tech, and we're like, okay, he's crazy, he's been successful in the past, and he's already put a lot of personal capital into this with a lot of interesting goals. But one of the goals that you were successful at that I thought was really exciting, made me think of you on the street of Disney, was that in the worst spotty kind of internet, 3G kind of environment, I can still watch Brinks TV. Now, how is that? Because it is weird, as we know.
No,
who's
it really is
consuming.
weird. It really is weird.
It is strange, and so here you are directing from a street in spotty, and anyone with 3G can watch this app, live sports show. It's insane.
And what's interesting with the iteration of technology is you can, if you had unlimited resources, you think you can figure it out. I could do anything. And with Brinks TV, when you go on the interface, you see that you're watching a program and you're able to buy something and you never leave the screen. And you're going to say, how did I never leave the screen? We are the only platform that figured out that you are never redirected to a pay gate that takes you outside of a screen and the video plays. It is all one thing, and it's built on the premise of my 81-year-old mother. God, she's still alive. My dad's passed away, and she's still alive. But I'm like, she just needs to be able to use it. Now, my mother uses her phone, doesn't know how to get on Wi-Fi or hotspots or whatever, so it has to work on 3G. Now, if you were to try to build this, no offense to Vimeo, on Vimeo and just press play, it will not work. It's just not built to do that. It's built for an entirely different reason. If you try to build it on an off-the-shelf product, they're just not built for it. They're like past that point. So I'm like, listen, my mom's not past that point. So if we have to build our own window and iterate it and figure out how the streaming is going to work no matter what, and the buying experience is going to work no matter what, and you're never kicked out, and you have that singular vision, it takes a lot of dollars with a lot of zeros after it to figure it out. And then once you figure it out, you're like, oh my God, this is it's figure out a bowl if you just keep at it. The GOAT code, what I think that you all will see is the greatest athletes of all time show up for no money. They're not being paid because they want to be a part of something great. It's on Brinks TV exclusively with this creative team. It's because positive energy begets positive energy and can bend the universe. We have a question.
We have a question. Yes, sir. Stand up for us.
Oh boy, that put him on the spot.
Put him on the spot.
What's your name?
Max Dunn with,
Hi, Max.
with Silicon Publishing. Are you monetizing the platform outside of your own use?
we're monetizing the platform through sponsorship. So it's brand funded content. So the GOAT code is sponsored by Superpatch. Everyone go to superpatch.com. Go to superpatch.com. They are paying good money to sponsor the GOAT code.
No, I mean the technology you've developed to make this happen.
The technology, are we monetizing that technology? Yeah. That's in the longer term play. We're building out the platform and the content in the sports space. And so the answer is yes, stay tuned.
Thank you.
So John, there's a lot of producers in the room. Are you guys acquiring content for Brenkus?
We are. We're always looking for content for partnerships. We're always looking for content to help. We own the entire chain. So we are our own distribution platform. We create our own IP. We have our own retail widget. We have our own studios. We have we literally own every part of the equation. And we're looking for partners, content creators, who want to be able to monetize their content in a way that they've never envisioned it. Because if you put it on YouTube, good luck. It's like you're just not going to be able to make a living. On our platform, it's brand funded content, so a brand is going to connect themselves to the platform and say that is an amazing movie or TV show or series or whatever it is that a consumer is going to consume and get paid for to buy products that the sponsor has paid for. So it creates that loop that everybody wants. If I'm a brand and I spend $1 million, I want $1 million of products sold, but how do I do that without you bouncing out? If I'm watching on YouTube and then click and go somewhere else, I've lost my customer and my attention. So we built the platform that captures it. So yes, if you all have content that you think is awesome that brands may like, we generally are looking for high-end content that's outside of the box that can be produced at a high level. We are open for business for sure.
We have another question?
Yes, Kadeem Thomas with All Deaf. When it comes to the virtual camera side, I guess you guys were talking about, of course, that's proprietary, I'm guessing, of course.
No, the camera is a Red Spy camera. It's from a company called stYpe.
Okay.
And they do camera tracking extremely well, but they also have a plug-in into the Unreal Engine that allows you to seamlessly integrate their tracking into both a live setting where you're on an LED wall, and also they have a really fantastic green screen keying product, which you'll see demoed next door, I think, over lunchtime.
For the techies in the room, when he says great keying, you can hold up a bottle of water and have the green screen behind the plastic bottle of water and a key out. It's insane.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey there, Cynthia Webster, DP. This is a question for Wolfie. That is, you mentioned that not getting spill light on the LED volume. What other challenges are there for shooting on an LED volume? I've never done it.
Absolutely. The things I would say are you need to really pay attention to your black levels, and you're filming a live person and you're pointing a camera sensor with a LUT, right? The cameras have a color profile, and you're pointing it at an object that's displaying a LUT and has a color profile, right? So you need to really tune the colors and tune the black balance, so you have to really have a good DIT. Various programs are now coming out where we don't have to do it painstakingly by hand. Sony Venice 2 has a new program where you point the Venice at the wall, you put a color chart up in person, and then it puts a color chart up on the wall. It does all the calculations for you, and it makes the wall, and it automatically adjusts the LED wall to look good for the room. So those are really important things. Treat it like a green screen. Everything you do with green screen lighting, you do with LED wall lighting, right? You light the talent, you keep the talent's light off of the green screen. You light the green screen, you keep the green screen lights off of the talent, right? So lots of gripping and lots of, the other thing is get in with they have a VAD team, the virtual art department. Get in with them early and light the scene yourself with the VAD team so that the VAD team doesn't set the look of the show for you. You can do it on a Zoom call with a color accurate monitor, get you in the ballpark.
Thank you, Wolfie.
Yeah, feel free to find me afterwards. I can give you more.
We've got a question over here, the right side of the room. Yeah, there was a question over here. I saw it. Yeah, there you go. You can stand up. Go for it.
Hey, How you doing? Jeremy Brooks here.
Hi, Jeremy.
Quick question for some of the other producers in the room. It seems like you guys did a hybrid approach to this production. I was wondering if you guys could touch a little bit on that when it comes to budget and the schedule overall of the production. How long did it take? Why did you choose that approach? And if there are any complications that you ran into?
Ooh, complications. Eric, Eric and John?
Yeah, I mean, the complications, I think, especially for a production like this, is getting all of these incredible people together at once. So it's kind of like the same complications you have on a big budget movie, because you have to manage the schedule of actors on a big budget movie who are booked 4 years out, every single day. Same thing with sports athletes. So it was just being able to make it so that the production could be facile and change rapidly. I think that was an important part of what we were building.
Yeah, I mean, so sports science, we never knew when an athlete was going to be available. So we built a stage that had all the cameras were already set, everything was ready to go. Athlete walked in, flipped on the lights, shot it. It was amazing. You did that 1,800 episodes. You're like, holy, this is really cool. Now it was a physical set. So the GOAT code is the limitless idea. We're not limited to sport. So we are doing the GOAT code of everything, whether it's music and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and soccer and baseball and basketball. It's the GOAT code, the greatest of all time for everything. So we needed to build a set that's flexible enough to be not pigeonholed for just sport, but also available anywhere that we need to be able to shoot. So we can shoot in LA, we can shoot in Atlanta, we can shoot anywhere that we want. We can just pick, we can turn on Unreal, make sure that we have our volume, and shoot the show, and it's going to be all consistent. That blend of LED walls, shooting down at Trilith, up at Brinks TV, we can shoot in LA, is something that really no show has ever been able to do before because the technology didn't exist. So Frank Patterson's vision of giving everyone the tools to tell the story that you want is coming to life far beyond Trilith, and Trilith is really the center of the creative community.
And I'll say, as an investor, on behalf of investors who would invest in talent into a business like this, look, just cut to the chase. One thing that was really attractive is John makes content fast and inexpensively. He makes great content that's really entertaining, fast, and in our world, it's really inexpensive. So that's not cheap, by the way. There's a big difference, right? And so how does John do that? It was the collaboration of all these approaches that was attractive to us, because to your point about budget, these cannot be $500,000 shows. It just doesn't work. Right?
I think those days are gone for everybody.
Yeah, so the budget was, it had to stay these inexpensive budgets, and we had to solve through innovation, basically.
And if anybody read any headlines recently, you're like, oh, ESPN just laid off a ton of people and a ton of talent because no one is saying, oh my God, I have to tune into that person, that one person. They need a value proposition. We're way beyond, we're paying somebody $4 million to sit on camera and talk. We're just way beyond that. Who's funding everything? The fact that I'm telling you this, we, as a consumer, are no longer going to pay $20 a month to watch a platform that has 5 million things to watch, but we only watch one thing and then we forget about it and it charges our credit card for years, and then we hate that platform and we're like, why did we do that? What the new future is, I'm paying you to watch TV because sponsors don't know how to take the content that they're paying for and convert that consumer into a customer. How do they do that? So that's the platform that we built, and you can't create programming that outprices what sponsors are willing to pay. And they're not going to say, I'm going to pay $500,000 for one episode of something. They're like, look, I could give you 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever the model is. If you're getting 100 grand an episode, you should be able to make a bunch of money off of that on every side of the equation. That world did not exist until this moment in time. It just takes a while for everything to catch up.
Well, thank you everyone for such a great conversation.
We do have one last clip to play.
Oh, all right, go for it.
Roll it.
Roll it.
Cracking the code. We're cracking the code on the greatest of
all time. Exclusively on Brinks TV.
That's the commercial. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
It's time for lunch. We're going to open up these doors, head out for lunch. We're going to do a stYpe demo, lunch and learn here in this room. So a lot of the technology